Oh, it's a hot show. I forgot. Ooh. Wow.
Back on the East Coast.
Back on the East Coast for the hot show.
Jet setters.
Oh, I thought that was a Jets reference.
No.
First things
Jet
first.
setters.
Well, we have a lot of Jets news.
Yeah.
I will. At Cleveland?
He's not going to play.
Do not play.
No.
He's not going to play.
No, that's silly. Okay, so how should Duval feel?
Well, listen, I think relieved and disappointed. I think they're in the moment. It looked far worse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was suffered in a different way, but this is the injury Mahomes suffered in the playoffs against the Jags, actually.
Yep.
And Mahomes shouldn't have been playing later in that game or the next week, but it was the playoffs, so it's a different situation. So I think you're a little relieved that it's just the high ankle sprain, but then disappointed for enough, because I do think he's going to miss some time, and I do think, I can't prove it, but I do think they would have won that game if this didn't happen. I know the Jags defense wasn't playing well, but disappointed for a couple of reasons, Brew. One is, ever since, America's favorite deliverer of typically cogent analysis had one of his worst takes ever in calling Trevor Lawrence, quote, the weak link of the Jacksonville Jaguars, he has been balling. I mean, it's not quite the pass heard around the world, but it is a demarcation, a moment in time.
Last 3 games.
Yes, it was since you called him the weak link, he has been balling. And by the way, this is the tendency of his career. Once the leaves fully fall off the trees, the weather gets a little crisp and bitter. That's when Trevor plays his best ball. That's when it was last year, and that's when it was this year. And so now it's derailed a bit. But also disappointed because we were going to have the trumpeters today because the Jags were going to be the 1 seed.
Mm-hmm. We were going to have them in.
We had them booked. We canceled them out of respect to Trevor's injury because I thought it was a serious injury and I didn't want to make light of anything.
Right.
Not that this isn't but they were going to be the 1 seed this morning. That's not conjecture. Had they won last night, They are the 1 seed. And now, Brew, I think they're likely going to end up the 3 or the 4 at 11-6 instead of 12-5 or 13-4, and maybe the 1. So it's not, cataclysmic, but for the Jags to reach the Super Bowl, which all of us think is either unlikely, I think it's unlikely, I think it's impossible, they certainly needed, I believe, the 1 or the 2 seed.
Yeah.
They needed the best path possible, and the odds of that went down dramatically. So it's a sad day in Duval County, and, sad day for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, look, contrary to what Nick said, I actually like Trevor Lawrence a lot.
A lot is too
All right?
much.
No, you don't.
I don't like him a lot.
It's
He likes him a
amazing.
lot.
I mean, I'm not surprised how we see things differently. I
you
see
dare
it
say
as
inspiration.
motivation. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was actually a living, breathing testament to the power of the Bud list. Because you put up those nice stats. Guess when those nice stats started?
I think it was just a regular segment.
Right after he was on the Bud. No, he was on the Bud list. And I challenged him. Because I was like, you're better than this. But right now, with 9 touchdowns in 9 games, the defense is bend but not break.
That was a long time ago.
The receiving core is nice. Travis Etienne is doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you're looking like the wink link, son. You're looking like the weak link, son. And then he goes out and he starts balling like he should be as a former number 1 pick. So I'm proud of Trevor. I'm glad it is not a serious injury. Look, Nick, I didn't think they were a legit Super Bowl contender with Trevor. Obviously now, without getting the 1 or 2 seed, I don't think they're a threat at all in the AFC. But I think Jags fans should just look at this year as a second building block season to maybe next year being a legit contender.
And by the way, just real quick, I think that's right. I think that you aspired to, hey, could we shock some people and maybe skip a step in the process? And I understand last year they won a home playoff game and went to the divisional round. But it's different even if that's exactly what they do this year, it's different if you do it by being 12-5, good throughout the year, as opposed to last year, you win a bad division, get hot at the end of the year. That can, to me, and I'm really not trying to have different standards for different teams, that can feel like a very positive step in the right direction.
They're not S-Bob. They've never been S-Bob this year. So, that's fine.
Odds to win the AFC. Chiefs still at 1. Ravens at 2. Dolphins, Jags, and then the sneaky Bills. 6-6 coming off a bye.
Vegas can never quit the
Headed to Kansas City.
They just can't quit them.
Nick, who deserves to be the AFC favorites?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. If the Ravens don't make the Super Bowl this year, it is an all-time missed opportunity.
Yeah, it's open.
Okay.
So here's the argument for it. 4 teams in the AFC North. How many of them have a healthy starting quarterback? Just Baltimore.
Yep.
Cleveland's is done. Pittsburgh's just had surgery. The Browns, even when he was healthy, I don't know if he was good, but certainly better than Joe Flacco, who they dusted out of the retirement home, right? The Bills are in turmoil. The Chiefs right now seem to be, to I think the general public at least, as gettable as they have been at any point in the Mahomes era. The Chargers are still just charging. The Jags quarterback just went down. Like, we are the Dolphins, we could argue, but I think people think the Ravens are the exact type of team the Dolphins can't handle. You know what I mean? A physical team that wants to fight. And the Baltimore's always wanted to fight, not breakdance, as Brew would say. Even though Ray Lewis, I think, did a bit of both. A little fighting, a little breakdancing in the celebration, to be honest. Maybe that's why he's great. And so, if you're Baltimore, if this year, this playoff run in this AFC ends in another disappointing playoff performance, which some has been due to injury, some's been due to underachievement, whatever, I do think there will be a moment of, well, if not now, then when will we ever do it? And so, listen, I believe the Chiefs are the favorite. I believe the Chiefs are the best team. I believe the Chiefs' biggest question mark right now is the passing game, which is also the Ravens' biggest question mark, in my opinion, particularly since the injury to Mark Andrews. So I will take the Chiefs and Mahomes. But I'm saying, if Baltimore falls flat this year under these circumstances, it's going to be very hard for Ravens fans to be like, well, next year will be better when Burrow's healthy, when maybe Josh has a better offensive coordinator, the Chiefs add a weapon. This to me is the moment for your team. Go ahead.
Well, I think you'd blame it on Mark Andrews' injury. You'd be like,
everybody's got an injury.
I know, but that one, it would be like if Travis went down, you would have an out.
Yeah, but I guess the point, just quickly.
Travis is even more. I think the Ravens receiving core is better than Kansas City without tight ends.
But also, I guess the point is like, if going into the year, it's like, hey, you're fighting with the Bengals for the AFC. They're going to lose Jamar Chase and you're going to lose Lamar. Or they're going to lose Joe Burrow and you're going to lose Mark Andrews. Like the injuries thing, yes, the Mark Andrews injury hurts. But one of the reasons they're in this position is because everyone else is so injured.
Yeah, I like the way you worded it. All-time missed opportunity. I thought you were going to say all-time failure. I wouldn't say that. Even though I think they are Super Bowl or bust, that's how they should think. And because this is kind of like, this is a year you need to get it done if you're going to get it done. But since they haven't been even close to the Super Bowl yet, then I don't think, failure would be the right word. But you are right, missed opportunity for sure. Because now, I mean, it really is looking like it's Baltimore, Kansas City.
Yeah.
Period. And as you said, the Chiefs are vulnerable. They are more vulnerable than ever. You don't agree? Who you got, Miami?
I mean, Miami's number 2 in points.
Why?
They're number 2 in points.
I thought I told you.
I understand.
Is there going to be a cardboard on the floor of the AFC Championship
If it goes through Miami, maybe.
Really? They're going to be up rocking and all that stuff?
They're number 2 in points. They're number 1 in yards. And then you're like, well, yeah, it's Tyreek. You're airing it out. They're also number 2 in rushing yards.
Yeah.
Baltimore's number 1, Miami's number 2. So I know you say they like to break dance and the Ravens like to ground and pound.
Yeah.
Miami is still getting it done in both ways. If you lose, you got to go. If you go through Miami, like, can we put up 30 points? Because they might.
It's not going to go
They don't do that against the great teams.
And it's also they're not going to get home.
They're still getting some benefit from the 70 points, some.
A little bit.
And they don't put up those points against the tough teams that they face.
There are a lot to me, and I'm not, I promise, I am not, we can argue out Purdy later. You guys just did the coffee cup thing. I love it when you guys do that. You guys drink coffee. You guys are just totally insane.
What's a long flight?
There are a lot of similarities to me from a conceptual standpoint with Miami and San Francisco.
Really?
Well, just hear me out on this. Just hear me out on it for a moment. If the ball gets rolling in their direction, they look like an unstoppable force. That's first of all. Those are, to me, 2 of, along with Dallas, the teams most likely to just blow somebody out and make it seem like an unfair fight. Also, it is, to me, not coincidental that McDaniel came from Shanahan's system. And when you watch these games, they have these incredibly skilled position guys on the outside and quarterbacks who, fair or not, with Tua as well as Purdy, people have questions about. Right. But it's like, God dog it, man. Look at their numbers and look at what they're able to do. I don't think Miami has the talent at running back, obviously, as San Francisco, but it's statistically an incredibly productive.
Achane,
right.
Now that he's back.
And the flip side to it is, they are also, of the best teams in football, the teams that the days we've seen them when it hasn't gone in their direction, they don't look like, okay, they're all right. They look bad. Like
I don't think San Francisco's in that boat. I totally disagree with them and Miami being similar. Yes, they can blow you out for sure, but San Francisco's blown out great teams.
Oh, I agree with all of
Miami hasn't even beaten a great team, and I think it's because San Francisco is better everywhere. Like their defense is one
far
of the best
better
in the league, right? And they're tough. That's the thing. They want to fight.
Can I? Brew, you said
they went into Philly with dressed in
we're
black.
Talk San Francisco
and backed
later.
it up.
I knew I shouldn't have mentioned
it. Was just Debo.
It was.
That
just
was
Debo.
enough.
Okay.
Debo
but
was the one running his mouth.
I do feel like right now there's got to be for Mahomes and Lamar, who I think neither is really having, certainly for Mahomes, and I would argue Lamar as well, the season they wanted to have coming into this year. Mahomes defending MVP and Lamar, it's like new offense, all these weapons. Have to be looking around at the landscape and saying, man, if I can get, in Mahomes' case, back to another Super Bowl, in Lamar's case, my first Super Bowl, in what has been up to this point a disappointing year for me, like what's right out in front of him in a very unique way.
I bet you Lamar doesn't look at it as disappointing. I agree he probably envisioned putting up better numbers, but I think he's just like, we're winning. His game is not based on stats. It's just.
You don't think Lamar thought that this year, because he was kind of vocal,
he'd have better passing
like he was kind of vocal about Greg Roman. I loved him, but it was time to move on. He was super excited when they got Odell. They spent a first-round pick on Zay. They did all these things, and at the beginning of the year, they seemed to be trying to do more of a new offense than they're doing now. I think Lamar is probably, because he is a team guy, happy they're winning,
like, hey,
but also personally, like, man, let me put it like this: I bet he thinks he can be playing better. Even if he's happy they're winning, I think he thinks he can be playing better.
Finally, the winner of Monday Night Football. Okay, here were Browning's numbers last night. Everything, excellent. Completion percentage, 87. Okay, pretty good, 354 yards. Nick, are you surprised Jake got the win here? Okay.
I
don't understand what that's for.
I have no idea
First of all, that's our bit. It's really my bit that you took. And
once
when I do it, it makes sense.
Once,
what did you predicted that Jacksonville would win.
No.
They weren't even on upset alert.
Of course I'm surprised that the Cincinnati won the game, but this is not about something I said yesterday. Oh. And I was going to let you join me on the ride for this.
Okay. I'll buy the ticket.
This is another classic Category 2.
Classic 2.
Classic Category 2.
Nick Wright 2.
Yeah, which is,
I gotta hear this.
All right, well, if people don't know Wildes, can you explain it?
Okay.
Wildes, I have three types of opinion.
There's three types of takes. I'll speak to the audience.
Wildes.
There's three types of Nick Wright take.
Thank you.
Number one, absolutely right.
Immediately. Yes.
Number three, dead wrong.
Yes.
Number two,
my favorite,
eventually right.
Eventually, incontrovertibly correct.
And it came around. And you were wrong.
The
flip side, you lost.
I am waiting to hear this. I have no idea what you're talking about.
The first month,
I said they were on upset alert. I was the only one.
Of the season.
Guy had 82 yards
the first month of the season, I was sitting here arguing, hey, Cincinnati, your star quarterback, your franchise, who you just made the highest paid player in the league. You know how I know he's not healthy enough to play?
He completed 45% of his passes.
Because for the first month of the year, we can show you the numbers, he was he the worst quarterback in the NFL? He was. And I said, why don't you sit him down so he can get healthy? And everyone's like, the Achilles will be fine. And if you remember, I said, believe it or not, I'm not so worried about the calf turning into an Achilles. I'm worried about the calf turning into a different injury because he can't escape pressure or escape the pocket, all those things. And the Bengals were like, no, Brew, no, this is football. We're from Ohio. We're tough men. Blah, 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 blah. Young people be soft. And one of the arguments was Jake Browning. You're going to put Jake Browning out there?
I never even mentioned his name.
Jake Browning went out there and dealt. Poor Joe Burrow's watching with a sling on his arm when they could have recognized we have a 53-man roster for a reason. It's a long season. Let's be cautious. Give this kid who's our backup a chance. Let Joe get fully healthy. And I'm not saying even necessarily the calf injury led to the
whole thing now.
But
that nullifies every single thing you just said.
No, here's why it doesn't.
I mean, really.
Here's why it doesn't. Because had they done that, then guess what? 6 weeks later, when Joe Burrow has a compression sleeve on his wrist, guess what they probably don't do? Have him go play against the Ravens. Because they're like, don't worry. Jake Browning's here. Guy can ball occasionally.
It makes sense.
So,
no, he doesn't.
A vintage category
this
2.
Is sad.
What do you mean, sad?
This is sad.
What do you mean?
You're so desperate for a W that you're just finagling something. All right, number one.
What everyone's talking about.
Number one.
What?
You mean to tell me, based off one great performance
that he wouldn't have been the worst
Jake
quarterback
Browning,
in the league for a month,
that he was going to do something close to that every game he played?
Just not be the worst quarterback in the league for a month. Yeah. Joe Burrow was the worst quarterback in the league for a month.
Stop it. Jake Browning played well last night.
Yes.
He was very good against a defense that bends a lot.
But a defense you've been talking about?
No, they don't give up a lot of touchdowns passing, but they give up a lot of yards.
When you've been making the Purdy
Can I finish? You just spoke for 5 minutes about some foolishness. You talked for 4 minutes, and then you made the sentence that nullified every single thing you said. All right. Now, look, Jake Browning, great game.
Yeah.
But I've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick play a great game. I've seen Joshua Dobbs play a great game for 2 or 3. But that doesn't mean they're going to do that consistently. One thing we know is that a guy that's a smart guy at quarterback, which Jake Browning is, 4.0 in high school, great student at Washington. Joshua Dobbs, rocket scientist, literally. All right? We've seen other guys who are smart. Ryan Fitzpatrick, as I mentioned, Harvard grad. Go in there and be effective for a short time, and then once teams get film on them, they don't have the athleticism or the talent to overcome it.
Yeah.
So Jake Browning was not going to be great and throw for 300 yards for the first week of the season.
But would he not be the worst?
Secondly, Joe Burrow got healthy. The calf was fine. And it's football, so you play through aches and pains. Mahomes, you mentioned, played through a high ankle sprain. Tom Brady's played through a torn ACL. We've seen quarterbacks play through all types of injuries. So don't tell me that because Joe Burrow's wrist was sore, he shouldn't have been out there playing.
Well, listen,
it's called football, it's called a collision sport.
You're right. It's called football, but here's all I know,
You
Kevin
try to
Wildes.
manufacture that as a W?
I know that for the first month of the season, the Bengals had literally the worst quarterback in football. They kept playing him through injury. They then decided it was normal playing him through injury. He then played in a game where he clearly had a previous injury and it knocked him out for the season.
Clearly had a previous injury.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't a style thing.
He said he's done that regularly.
Okay, well, I don't believe him, and you didn't believe him the day after either.
Actually, I did. I didn't think he had. I didn't think that was a serious injury.
Okay, then they should have left it up on their social media.
Exactly right. Listen, I'm just saying. Listen, bro. Listen, it's okay. Listen,
whatever helps you sleep at night.
This is why the category 2 is so satisfying. Because nobody sees it coming.
So what are you saying? Burrow shouldn't have been playing the first month of the season.
That's what we just
learned. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if he wasn't, the Bengals probably right now are 8-4 with a healthy Joe Burrow.
I'm
That's
not
what
into
I'm saying.
the
Classic 2.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.